Life Show International. I am Beverly Fells Jones, an internationally known author, speaker, authority on memory, seminar leader, and your host for today's show. What is the Good Life Show? Well, it's not about the rich and the famous. It's about the ordinary and the extraordinary. And this is the ordinary and extraordinary people who are living their dream. You know, I work to present a variety of topics dealing with everyday living and leisure activities through interviewing interesting people. And when I say the ordinary and the extraordinary, I'm not putting anybody down, because they could be rich and they could be famous. But in the very essence of things, they're just like you and I. They could be your neighbor and you don't even know it. These are people who are living their dreams, and I want to present them to you. You know, I want you to join me for each episode so you might find a catalyst to bring your dreams into reality if they haven't already. And you can do that best by clicking below the subscribe button. Boy, for some reason I'm tongue-tied today. Alright, and hit the little bell down below so you'll be notified each time I have a new interesting person for you to see and hear. So please subscribe. Hit the notification button. Hit that like button if you like this video or any of the other videos on this channel. It would be greatly appreciated. Make some comments below. Tell me who you would like to hear. What type of person would you like to have on the show? I'll answer as many of your comments as possible, because I want this to be an outlet for many people who may not have an outlet to let people know what they do and what they love. So it is my pleasure to bring to you in this episode Paul Lowery. Now, Paul and I have known each other for a little over a year, and I have found him to be ever interesting. He's always winding up telling me something about himself, and I go, really? So, Paul is a very creative person. He is a very sensitive person. And he says that creativity really started for him when he was around the age of 9. And he started doing pencil drawings of faces and figures all the way through high school. In fact, his second half of his sophomore year, he was the cartoonist for the school newspaper. So he took his drawing, inked them up, and made them presentable for print. In college, he majored in graphic design. So he said he particularly loved photoshopping. So he experienced some challenges, but we all experience some challenges. So he took his time and he learned. Well, over the years, he had a dog, and he called that dog Bobo. And unfortunately, Bobo contracted an illness and died. And so his book that he's going to also talk to us about today is Bobo and the Monster. And so he actually used this book, this illustration, this children's book, to help him get over his grief. But we'll talk more about that. So help me. And, well, you know, it's like when I'm in an audience, I ask, help me to welcome, but you don't have to clap. Just have an open mind, open heart, open ears, and listen to my interview with Paul Lowery, the author of Bobo and the Monster. All right, hello everyone. I just want to welcome you to the Good Life Show. And I am truly happy today to introduce to you a gentleman who is an inspiration to others, and he wanted to inspire many people. And by doing that, he wrote his book. And I want to introduce to you Paul Lowery. Hello, Paul.
Oh, hello. Thank you for having me at this time.
Oh, yes, it's my pleasure to be able to do that. So, audience, I met Paul while I was working at Nebraska Furniture Mart part-time. And so we got to know each other, and he told me he had written a book, and I thought that was absolutely awesome because not many people take the time to write a book and also get illustrations done, because Paul's book is a children's book. So Paul, tell the audience the name of your book.
Bobo and the Monster.
Bobo and the Monster. All right. And that's a really good name, especially with kids wondering about being afraid of the dark and monsters under their beds and in their closets and all that kind of good stuff. But just looking at that and trying to, what I want to say, understand how books are written. I'm just going to ask you just a couple of things about that. So,
oh, sure.
In your writing process, I'll get to why you wrote the book and all that stuff later, but in your writing process, did you sit down and at specific times of the day and write, or did you just write as the information came to you? Did it wind up you wrote it all in one sitting? What was your writing process?
Well, it was visual milestones, like a silly little joke that just popped in my head, and I thought, oh, well, what can I do to lead to that? And it wasn't all in one day. It was while I was walking about or sitting down at work when things weren't so busy at work, and I would just sit in my daydreaming span and just try to come up with little thoughts that came to mind. And like one involving a silly little joke with Bobo that's involved a tennis ball. It's like, oh, well, what could I do to lead to that, after this little thing? So it helped me to build, a point, from step 1 to step 10, from the beginning chapter to the end chapter.
Okay, so
and
so the idea is that it wasn't a daily thing or or a certain hour of the day. It was just ideas would pop into your head, and then you would, well, if you were at work, did you make a little note somewhere to remind you, or if you were home, you sat down and wrote it? How'd you do that?
I'm glad you asked that, because some people tell you, oh, write that down on paper or else you're going to forget. Well, no, actually, I have a form of, I wouldn't say photographic memory. It's not like when I see somebody's face, I have a photographic memory and draw that later. Like I have a special kind of memory where it's like whatever I think up in my head to write or to draw or to video edit later on, it just stays intact there, and I don't lose it. It just stays with me all the way till I finally get to writing it down.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the things I do is teach people about memory and how to recall things as necessary. Do you remember always having this capability, or was it something that over time you managed to develop?
You could say it's a little bit of both. I've been told that I have an amazing memory to recall details, long term, for like remembering things from a television show, episode, or movie, like word for word dialogue from like many years ago. Like I only watched it once or twice, like 13 years ago, and bam, it's still in my head, and I could practically quote it out loud to anybody. And I don't know what you call this type of memory. I don't know if it's eidetic or something. I don't know, but it does feel wonderful. It's a good gift to have, and it's like benefit me with a lot of art projects over the course of time.
Well, it sounds kind of like your audio. You know, some people are visual, some people are audio, some are kinesthetic, meaning touch. So it sounds kind of like your audio, unless it's something that you're going to picture and see, because as you remember dialogue, that is voiced. And some people do have this ability to do that. And other times it may be a rhythm that the person speaks in that allows you to remember it. I remember a movie where the attorney had this person on the witness stand. And what he did was he went and said something in a different way. So if I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you'd go, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, really. And I said it in that way. It's just a set of numbers to you, right? Because we're just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But if I come back and I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, what kind of number would you think that was?
Can't really say for certain.
Yeah, it's a trick, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is how people say their social security number.
Oh.
So say your social security number in your head, because we don't want to tell people what your number is, right? And the people will listen, they go, oh, now say your social security and your number without any pauses. So this is what the guy did on the show or in the movie. He was telling he gave the guy his social security number, but without any pauses. And so he was trying to prove that the guy was incompetent. He says, well, you said it in an unfamiliar way, right? You don't, because you're used to hearing it a certain way. And so I'm thinking that there's a possibility that, you have this capability of hearing things and being able to bring them back, because somewhere in your subconscious level, you may be hearing or a rhythm or picking up on the rhythm of how it's being said. Now, that's me just guessing. I'm not a doctor, right? But it's me just guessing on that idea of how people kind of retain things. So you think of something in the while you're there, and you play with the thought when you get it, and then eventually later you come back with the thought that you played with and then write it down. Did I get that right?
Something like that, like mentally write it down. And it's been considered that way with long-term memory, although with short-term memory, like when getting to know somebody, when it's normal when you can't quite recall their name, and it takes, trying to be reminded of it like 2 or 3 more times until it's like burned into your memory. I naturally have that kind of thing from time to time, but I would say that's everybody.
Yes, everybody, I meet people and they want to talk about that memory piece and not remembering people's names. I said, but you normally remember their face, right? He says, yeah. I said, I've met people. I saw one of a person that I had been working with, but I didn't see them at work. I was out and about in another setting. I knew them, but I couldn't and they weren't somebody I interact with every day, but I knew that I knew them, but I couldn't figure out where I knew them from until they mentioned something about work. And then I go, oh, right. So when you see
Yeah.
somebody outside of the normal location, then it may be just a little different about being able to remember them. All right, well, we got off on a subject called memory there, but that's nice to know that you have that capability because it can be helpful for other people.
Yeah, there was once somebody that after I was just like quoting something from a movie that I only saw like once or twice years ago, this person was just wide-eyed like, you got to stop. You're freaking me out because that is just so precise.
Yes, but it was also a movie that you liked probably, right? It was something that you really enjoyed.
Yeah, or it could something that I was just contemplating in my head at a mundane day at work, and I'm just recalling a movie I saw the night before, and some of those things just happen to stick in my memory.
Yes, they do. And that goes back to concentration. A lot of times we may not realize that we concentrate on something. It's just like, commercials, what is one, plop, plop, fizz, fizz, with the Alka-Seltzer commercial, or where's the beef? We all seem to know that because, yes, they were repeated to us, but they were so cute that they stuck. And that kind of thing. Well, that's cool. All right. So you thought about it. You came back. You wrote the information for it. So tell us what inspired you to write Bobo and the Monster.
Well, it all started with a silly visual in my head that involved Bobo and the monster being what the cover art, and just thinking, and then it led to thinking of the title, and just the visual of Bobo in the center and the big bulky monster behind him in the background, and it just sort of grew from there, and it has to do with the silly twist at the end of the book, and just wanted to think, oh well, that would be a silly joke leading up to the ending. What could I write out to lead up to that? And it just sort of grew from there, all from the visual of the cover art.
Okay, very good. So
Thank you.
it sounds like, and correct me if I got this wrong, you got the visual of this whole thing, and then you needed to put some words to it. Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah.
Okay. So the visual was the inspiration. Well, the visual was the catalyst, let me say that. And then once you got that, then you say, okay, I need to put words to it. Very good. So going along with that, you got this visual and thing, but why did you feel you needed to tell a story, this particular story?
Because Bobo was just such a joyful friend to have in my life when things were rough. He was just a little brother that was there by my side that always made me laugh and smile. And leading to the thing about the visual cover art, it involves the twist, which the ending,
yes,
which is
but you can't tell us,
but I can't. Which I still want to tell, but I can't. It had to do with well, it's tough to talk about. When I learned that Bobo, he was my real dog in real life, and when I learned that he was diagnosed with cancer and that he only had a month span to live, I was just it was very devastating. And just like that, my little buddy, he wasn't going to be around anymore. And then when he passed, I thought about the book, and it became a coping therapy where it's like, no, I don't want his death to be all for nothing. I want to immortalize him and make him a joyful character that others can be inspired, just like how he inspired me. And so I wanted to create this project. And like, wow, what if I actually pulled this off of making a book? I mean, what if? And it became a journey of getting it to happen.
And in the book, I'm sure that there is a message inside of that book that you want your readers to understand. Now, can you tell us what that message is without spoiling the ending for us?
Oh, sure. It's a message about the loyalties, you know, as a Westie dog and what Bobo's breed, West Highland Terriers, are all about. A message about facing up to what you're afraid of, and perception of how you would look at things, and how about how things are not always what they appear to be.
Okay. And that's so true about things. I was having a conversation with a friend today, and, you know, we put out a picture, an outward picture that people see, but sometimes they don't see us. They see the trappings, but they don't see us. And the same thing with people's lives, that we don't see everything, or we misinterpret it. So you've got, go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying I agree. I mean, very much so, like what you just said.
Okay, so there's Bobo in the book. Are there any other characters in it?
Oh yes, absolutely. Characters that are inspired by a couple of friends of mine in real life.
Okay, so can you give us a little hint of the characters?
Oh yes, well, there's Scotty the squirrel, the meddlesome little squirrel that you see on the cover art that is causing trouble for Bobo's front yard and neighborhood. And Scotty is inspired by a very good friend of mine named Jared, who has been a longtime friend who's always had this funny wit about him. He's real smart, and he's a loyal friend that's always been there for me. And one time I showed Jared's picture to somebody where Jared was sitting in a tree, and he had this funny smile about him, and this person looked at his picture and said, he looks like a real trickster. And seeing him sitting up in the tree, you know, just like seeing a squirrel up in a tree, the visual just came to mind. And I was looking online at pictures of squirrels, and I saw these pictures of a rare type of squirrel you don't usually see, which is a red squirrel that's got longer fur on the tips of its ears and different shaped tail. It's a little thinner, and the red squirrel just seems a little bit more animated. And Jared, he is ginger haired, and it all just like popped in my head of giving this red squirrel the personality of Jared, because he has a funny little wit about him. He's a little mischievous with this type of persona, and it just like popped in my head. And the way you see Scotty on the cover of the book, you know, that's just how I perceived Jared in his picture. And another character, his wife Heidi, I incorporated her in the book as Bobo's owner. Only in real life, you know, she's the same age as me, but in the book, she's 10 years old. And in real life, Heidi was, of all the people that loved Bobo, Heidi was Bobo's biggest fan, and she just loved him. And he really essentially fed off of her positive energy. The more delighted she was, the more delighted he was. And she always referred to him as her little buddy, just like I did.
Okay, fantastic. Well, and it's really nice that you have the ability to draw from the people you know. I know a lot of authors do that. They draw from the people they know and take that information, or they merge some characters together. So they have 2 or 3 friends, and they take some characteristics from each one of them. Right.
Oh yeah, it's very fun, and to inspire a character based off of somebody you know and love that's always been a loyal, trusting friend that will never do you wrong and will just always be there for you, and you'll always be there for them. Because there was like a time or two where Heidi was like really emotional about personal things, and I was there to help her out. And when I was emotional about something, she's there to help me out. And the same thing with Jared. When I was upset and I didn't have anybody to talk to, he like came over one day and he knocked on my door and he was like, "Hey, Paul, let's go out and do something." And that's what true friends are all about.
Absolutely. And that's a wonderful thing. So, okay, so you've got a job, but is there anything else you do when you're not writing?
Yes, I so love to video edit. I've been video editing since I was 17, or no, wait, the first time I tried it was this career center at Dale Jackson in Louisville, and I first got my hands on a video editing machine, but this was involving VHS tapes at the time, and this was before DVD came about. And after I got to edit my first amateur music video, I was like, oh man, I want to edit more stuff, but the equipment to do that, it's just financially, it's just completely out of my hands. So
yeah.
Not until many years later, when editing devices became more available to computers and computers were just continuing to level up more, that's when I started to get my hands on one, and it developed, and one new software program came out outdoing the other, and my skills just grew from there, and I just became more self-taught of how to use it and doing my own amateur editing. And it's just been so fun. It's just something that always took my mind off of things. Whenever I was troubled by things, I would sit down and video edit one evening, and just all that anguish I was feeling was just gone. And aside from the video editing, it's just practicing with the illustrating, with the photoshopping, and along with that, if I'm not preoccupied with that, I love to go out and spend time with good friends, watching movies or having long conversations. And it's just it's like you can't get any better than that.
Absolutely. But I'm listening to you about the editing and things. So do you do freelancing at all for the editing part?
I've tried, but wanting to have a position in video editing or illustrating, it's just as challenging to have a career in that, just as it would be if you're an actor, you're trying to be a famous actor in Hollywood, or if you're a musician, you're trying to be a famous rock star in the music industry. It's very competitive industry, and it's hard to land gigs, And
yeah. Have you ever heard of Upwork?
Upwork? No, I can't say that I have.
Yeah, Upwork.com, and then there's Fiverr. Fiverr.com. There are places where people are always looking now, they've got certain rangers. Fiverr started out that people would do a job for $5, but now they've got, you can, depending on what you're getting or how much, let's say how much editing you're doing will dictate how much the job was. I was just looking at some logos. You can get a logo for $5, or you can get everything you need for up to, $250. So they have a range. And so people go there to find people to do work. And so instead of you having to go out and hunt down work. So it's Upwork and Fiverr, and if you Google some, I bet you'd find some more sites that you could be on that would allow you to do freelance work.
Yeah, I just now jotted it down, as you mentioned, Fiverr, Fiver, and Upwork, Upwork.
Yeah, Fiverr has 2 R's.
Oh, Fiverr, there's 2 R's.
Yeah.
Jotting that down.
Yeah, .com. So there are 2 places that you can sign up in order to, do your work. And you do photography at all?
No, I haven't done photography. Well, not since I took the college course in college.
Okay.
At the time, I had a really challenging teacher, but I aced that course, and aced the final exam, and it was one of my best achievements,
Well,
because
good.
because this teacher was a little hard-nosed, but he was a good influence, you know.
Well, that would be good. There's some places like canstock.com and free digital photo, and people upload their photos, you know, so if you had some photos that you think somebody might want to use in their show or whatever, then you have the opportunity to upload them and get paid for people using those photographs. So be aware of that also. All right, I didn't think given any freelancing information, but the people who are listening, if somebody is interested in doing that, yeah, Fiverr.com. I mean, people are doing digital video, logos, translations, voiceover work. I mean, all kinds of stuff is out there for people to be able to access.
Yeah, and I did do a little bit of freelancing. It just slipped my mind. Was for a haunted theme park known as thedarkpathhaunt.com, and it was a theme park, you know, that would have the little haunted house, but technically in a haunted forest every October. And I like created a really cool movie, a poster banner for them that looks like a movie poster, and created a logo title for when they had a zombie laser theme tag thing a couple years ago, and the people involved in the Dark Path Haunt, Steve and Melanie, they're very cool people. Steve, Melanie, and Andy, and they were very cool people to work with, very nice, and they're all about what they do. And it was a very family-oriented park where all the actors and security guards, you know, all of us, you know, we're very, very friendly, you know, very family oriented. And that was one of the best times of my life. And that's one of the other things I like to do in my off time is getting together with them, you know, staying in touch and having fun watching movies with them.
Awesome. Well, that is really great. So I learned something else new about you. So tell me, do you have another book coming up, or are you in the process of writing one, or what?
I do have one in mind. It's the next Bobo book. When I only got to do this one time of reading my book in a children's classroom, but it's been difficult trying to get back to it since, because the faculty staff, they're always busy, and it's hard to get in touch with who you want to talk to, and because of the tragic shootings, like with Sandy Hook, you know, security is just so much tighter, and it's been very difficult to get a spot with reading in the classroom. But I'm trying to think of where I was going with this. I do have another book in mind. Oh, no, wait, now I remember. Excuse me, it just slipped my mind there. You know, short-term memory moments, long-term memory moments are extraordinary, but sometimes short-moved, I just have a little blank out. But what I was getting at is the one time when I got to read in a classroom, the kids were all agreeing. They're like, we see this as a potential series, you know, like more books of Bobo meeting more friends. And the little kids, they were so sweet. Like when they were raising their hands and they each tell me their input, you're like, you should have one of Bobo and his birthday. And I was like, oh, I think that idea. And there was a sweet little girl that said, you should give Bobo a girlfriend. And I immediately had in mind of a little bitty, I can't remember the breed, but it's a very small dog breed. And I would like to name the dog either Zoe or Peaches. But yeah, since they said they see it as a series, I do have other Bobo story concepts in mind. So my next Bobo book that I intend to work on would be Bobo and the Fluffster, which is a very mysterious, super fluffy bunny rabbit.
Okay.
Named Fluffster. Okay. You call him Fluffster sometime, or you could refer to him as the Fluffster, kind of like in Happy Days where Fonzie was sometimes called the Fonz.
Yeah, very good.
The Fluffster.
All right. Well, that is really great, and I'll look forward to you telling me when that one is ready. So
yeah, I have it. I have it in mind in my head. I'm just writing it out. I've just been very busy with trying to take care of my health, but I'm finally starting to feel better and feeling excited to feel motivated to start writing it out in my head. And And when the writing process is done, then the real fun begins of illustrating page by page. And it's such a joy when I take my time with really getting all 110% with it, and just very carefully looking for any mistakes and any necessary details to throw in. And that's one of the best compliments I got from a little girl that loved my book. She was like, "I like the detail." And I just was like, "Oh my gosh, to hear that coming from me."
Even the kids are noticing detail, right? Yes.
Yeah, I was just like, "Oh, to hear that coming from you, little Kendall, that is just so sweet."
So what books have influenced you the most?
Oh, it was, well, with children's books, it was, when I was a little kid, it was big time. It was the Bearstein Bears. You know, those bears, they were an influence to me about little moral lessons. And one other book I can almost remember, it was Popcorn, you know, about these bears that, bear that was having a costume party with all of his friends, and they each brought their own boxes of popcorn, and in the book that becomes such an overkill of eating too much popcorn that all the poor bears got a little sick from it. But the Bearstein Bears, their moral lessons, one of the Bearstein books for that influenced a little idea for me about standing up to fear. And in my 20s, I mean, I wasn't much of a reader through my teens, but in my 20s, it's no surprise, but when Harry Potter came around, when I discovered that became a real therapy when I was really down about something, and that got me through some hard times with Harry Potter.
Okay. Well, good. I love Harry Potter. I got the series. I got them all except the last one. I've got to get the last one there because I bought the series before the last one was out in a package thing. All right, so.
Yeah, just be careful of spoilers out there.
I know. I'm not gonna. Well, most people, hopefully. I've been really surprised at the number of people who haven't seen the Harry Potter movies, and I go, "You gotta go, you gotta go." All right, so if you could invite 3 people, living or deceased, to dinner, who would you invite and why?
Oh, that's a really good one. God, got me there.
Well, it doesn't have to be 3. It could be 1. It could be 2. You tell me.
I'd have to say, what would it be? Perhaps. Trying to think.
It doesn't have to be, intense. It could be a kid you went to school with. It could be anyone.
Oh, okay.
And it could be anyone living or dead. And then why would you have them come to dinner with you?
I think there's 2 that come to mind. One was a friend I knew when I was 19. Her name was Morgan, and she was 17, and we both worked at the movie theater. It was our first jobs, and my first job was ushering at the Cinemark Tinseltown, and she tragically passed from cancer when she was just 17, and it was my first time dealing with grief, and it really hit me hard. But, in time, I managed to come to peace with it. But she was a very funny person and always full of life. And I would love to hear what she would say if I showed her my Bobo book. If we all sat down and ate dinner. And the other figure I can think of would be horror film director Wes Craven. Now he may be known for directing horror movies. They might think he's just nothing but a horror guy, but I've listened to him in interviews and in audio commentaries, and he was, I think he was a teacher or professor to students in college, and he was a very intellectual individual, just very smart, and was just so well spoken. And I would love to hear his thoughts about my book, since my book is about standing up to fear. His infamous film Nightmare on Elm Street was about standing up to fear. And I would love to hear from a master storyteller like him what he'd think.
And if you wanted a piece of advice or something that you would like to know about him, something that was that you've been curious about his life, do you have something that you would love to ask him and find out about?
Good one. Guess I would have to say, if I were to ask him, like, did it take you a very long time to write your Nightmare on Elm Street story as well, or was it quick in the span of a day or a month, or did it take a long time for you to come up to, and was it very challenging? You know, I guess I would have to ask him that.
Okay. All right. Well, very good. Well, Paul, I appreciate you being on the show today, everyone. This is Paul Lowery. The name of his book is Bobo and the Monster, and it is available on Amazon. Yes?
Yes, for print and for Kindle. And if you would prefer an autographed copy, you can order from my independent website, boboandthemonster.com, and I can, lickety split, once I would see the PayPal order from you, I just get right on it with autograph and copy and mailing it off to you as quick as possible.
So boboandthemonster.com.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I'll make sure that I have that available for everyone to be able to access, because I think they'd rather have an autographed copy than something that just came from Amazon. Again,
yeah, and when you first...
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
When you first enter the website, I have a delightful little melody playing. It was a music track written by my father years ago. He called it the Bo Song, and he expert piano player, and back in the day when Bobo was around, he just saw Bobo walking around the room and he just got inspired with a song, and it really adds charisma when you look at Bobo and the website, and it's just, you just think, yeah, that's Bobo. And because he was, in real life, he was, on the one hand, he was like trying to show off as this big, tough, macho man, and because he didn't know he was small. One moment he's barking at something, and then the next thing he knows a little flower, goes and takes a little whiff of it, and that just showed that he had a soft, gentle.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we will look forward to that, and I am going to look forward to your new book coming out. And then I also look forward to hearing about any contacts people have gotten to you. All right.
Oh, that would be really
well, very good. And thank you for being here.
Oh, this was really awesome. I've been looking forward to it, and it's such a stupendous joy.